everyone, welcome back to another video, and this week we're going to do a little bit more on my small shed layout. So we're going to try and put a bit more detail on it. I'm thinking of adding the third and fourth rail, as well as a few other extra little bits and some yard lights. So I did go to Model Rail Scotland a few days ago and I picked up a load of bits from Kite's Lights. So these are the lamps here. So I went for a more steam era looking kind of thing. If I just get a couple out without ruining them all. One little problem was I bought them at the end of the show when I think they were a bit overrun with trying to pack up. And I think they've given me 5 of these single lights. So you can see those there. It's a single lamp with a ladder, and 3 of these double lamps. Obviously they're the same sort of rough type, and I did ask for the opposite, but hey ho, it is what it is. But it does mean that we might have to get inventive. But in any case, I think we're probably going to have plenty of light output for the yard, so that shouldn't be an issue. So we'll chuck those on. I've also got from 10 Commandments at the show a set of signage, which are just basically printed out on paper, I think it is, or some sort of card. I don't actually own a printer, so I was a bit stuffed with this, so I just happened to pick these up as I was passing. I needed a railway stop board to go below where the camera is on the entrance to the yard. Some limited clearance boards will be really handy. We've got a few other little bits like danger, live wires, not there's overheads, but we got no trespassing. We've got no train spotters permitted, little bits and bobs, and some stop, look and listen boards for if we have, say, like a barrow crossing, which I do have a kit for, so that could be an idea actually. But yeah, so we've got those, we can make do with those. I have gone and weathered it as well. I'll just put a clip in of doing that now. So yeah, as you can see, I did go ahead and weather all the track. It's looking a lot better than it was. Obviously, I've still got to paint that coal stage, but you can see with some dirt over it, it's looking infinitely better than the last video. I've got some rails there, which are actually the ones that came with the inspection pit kits. However, of course, I didn't use it. I used a piece of flexi so that it was basically one long length of flexi from one side of the shed to the other. That left me with these 4 pieces of rail left over, which of course I could paint in a nice rusty colour and then glue them into the line side somewhere, just like a bit of a sort of collection / pile of old rail. So that would be a cool little thing. I've also obviously made a start on the road area, as you saw on the previous video, which goes around here. However, of course, when this is exhibited on its own, it won't have this, so I'll have to build another piece, which is part of the reason I want to crack on with this and get it basically finished, is because I want to then look at getting that board on the end of it and get some track on there, and then we can go from there, build the rest of the road, and then sort the traverser out to suit. I did go ahead with some weathering powder and just poop up this old London Transport transit van, which has come out pretty well, apart from I rubbed one bit of the roof off. But yeah, it's got a nice sort of dirty appearance to it now. I went over it with some panel line stuff as well, so that's brought out the door shuts and such, which looks a lot nicer than the out of the box glossy appearance that you usually get. So I will have to decide what other vehicles I want on this little layout and do the same. You will notice there is a class 13 in the yard currently. That's because I've basically nicked it from Anthony. He sorry, he bought it from Model Rail Scotland, knowing that I probably would have bought it if I'd seen it. So we're just deciding whether I buy it off him or not. So we'll see on that one. I mean, it won't be much use on this sort of layout or Harefield, in fact, but it's more just a bit of a nice to have, because I do have the 5-inch gauge equivalent, which is down there, as you can see. But yeah, it's all looking pretty good. We do, of course, still need to clad the depot. The depot is not going to stay looking like this because it looks awful. It's far too modern, and I want more of a steam feel. So I was going to do corrugated, sort of corrugated plasticard over the front faces, and then leave the brick sides. So it'd probably just end up looking a bit like this, really. I have got some plasticard from Anthony at AGR, so I will crack on and do that. And then I did also get a couple bits from West Hill Wagon Works. So one of them is this little barrel store, so that's pretty cool. I figured that could go somewhere. We've also got these little fences, which are the yellow key clamp railings, so they can obviously go before the car park. However, the car park, I am thinking just making a small section of it for parking a couple cars. The skip probably won't stay. And then maybe put a low relief building over here as well, some sort of lamp hut or yard mesh room, something like that. But yeah, I think we will start off by getting the lights worked out, position wise anyway, and see how they look in place. So we've got these lamps to fit then, the yard lights. As you can see, I've taken the stock off the layout, I've just chucked it up on the road. So we've got 3 of the double lights to fit. 2, 3, and then we've got 5 of the singles. Now the double ones, obviously you can make use of them by putting them in between 2 sidings. So the obvious place is probably between these 2, and then go singular for the rest. So I'm thinking we probably want one there, I would say. Maybe one at the end here, and then the 3rd one in the middle. I think that would give a nice sort of even-ish spread of light. We've just got to work out if we've got enough clearance here, but we should be fine, I think. Let's get away with that. So if we go for those 3 in that sort of position, so that will light up both of those roads nicely. And we've got 5 left to use. Now, one important thing is, don't forget, there is this little lifting road at the back, and that also needs a lamp or 2. So worst case, we'll just leave a single lamp for that. So if we put that over there somewhere, so that it was up near the buffer stop, because then we can have more lamps on the crane itself and on the end of the depot. Over this side, I'm just thinking, obviously you want to light this side up, but the double lamp here is halfway down this point. So if we use a singular lamp here for this point, that will give a nice sort of even spread. And then the same for this one would probably be handy on this side. And then I guess we would want a lamp over here somewhere for lighting up this area for taking on water. And then that just leaves down the back. So we probably want another lamp down the back for this siding. And I think at that we would be good. So what I'll do is I'll cut to a time lapse now, and we'll get some music playing and draw some holes. Glued in place then, and I did make the decision to turn them round 90 degrees because I thought these, although they would face onto the track, they look a little bit silly with the lamps being on track side. So I figured I'll move them 90 degrees and that looks a little bit better. However, then of course these didn't match, so I've had to move these 90 degrees as well. Hopefully they'll be in there strong enough. So yeah, they're all in. I've dug a bit of ballast out around them just so I can sink them in nicely. So I'll probably have a couple little spots where I've got to fill in a little bit of ballast here and there, but it's not too bad. We've got the one at the end as well. Of course, I've turned that round and that's glued to the top of the concrete hard standing, but it'll do. It's not the end of the world. That's something we can live with. Of course, I do need to put a buffer stop in here at some point, and then a retaining wall on the back, just so it sort of blends in with the surrounding scenery. Then we should be good. Something else I need to do at some point is just raise this little bit of embankment up, just so it all matches, because it does sort of flatten off. So yeah, I'll have to sort that. But yeah, it's looking pretty decent. So I think now I should probably move on. I might put these little bits of fencing in. I'll probably drill the holes. And then as you can see, I've ruined the surface. I spilt a little bit of thinners on there, so it took the paint off. So I'll drill the holes for this, and then I'll probably just chuck a quick top coat of concrete over, and then that should sort that out. And then I can put these in, and that should be happy days. Then we can start looking at maybe fitting a few bits of signage or something. So that should be good. And we also need to paint the two bridge brick sections to make them blend in. Yeah, we're looking good. We're looking good. Right, I've cut up those railings then from West Hill Wagon Works and chucked them in. They're not glued in yet, so it's not all completely sorted because I've not gone over with another layer of the concrete paint. I didn't want to do it quite just yet, so that I don't sort of wreck that later on by having to paint over it. But yeah, that obviously leaves this big space, which I wanted to put another low relief building in, or half relief, whichever. And I was trying to think what to fit in the gap, and I couldn't really think of much. And then I remembered in the corner of the room, I had that. And if you look, if I just put that in the right sort of place, that's where it would potentially sit. That leaves us a door on this side, and the entrance, obviously you wouldn't want that facing the track because it's a bit too big and it would come out onto the yard itself, so it's sort of the wrong way round. And then this side is just a couple windows facing obviously the bridge area, but it's the right sort of shape and size for what I want. I wanted something sort of two-story to give a little bit of height. So I think that's going to be perfect. Obviously, there's nothing at the back, so this can just be for shunters to walk along or whichever. Does mean, though, that as usual with one of my videos, we're going to have to chop a building up. So I think we're going to go with this, and it sort of fits the area nicely. If I bring you around this side, you get another idea. So there you see, it'll block off a lot of the back scene and work quite well, I think. So yeah, I'm going to mark this out. I'm going to get the multi-tool out, and as per usual, we're going to measure once, cut twice. Well, that's chopped up and that's now in place. Happy days. I'm pretty pleased with that. Obviously, it needs a bit of cleaning up at the back. It probably needs to go on like a linisher or something, ideal world. But if not, I'll just file it or get the DA sander out, just because I want it to be nice and flush for when the back seam board goes on. So yeah, I think that fits really well though. And obviously, being half relief, it means that I can detail inside when I get round to it, so I can put something in there. But for now, while you look at it this way round, it's not too bad. Obviously, you only really got the two big windows that you can see through, so that's pretty good. But yeah, I think that's a really nice addition. It does sort of help kind of fill out the landscape a bit. So I think that fits really nicely. Well, I've cleaned that up a little bit and it's now glued in. I've replaced the chimney pots that I broke off as well. And yeah, as I say, very pleased. So what should we do next? Now, I'm not sure on this little cabin, so I was thinking that could be some sort of little lamp hut or something like that. It's just a line side cabin that I got from Motherwell, Scotland. So I was thinking it would obviously fill that little gap there somewhere. However, as James pointed out to me when I asked him, he said surely a brick building would probably fit the theme better. So I'm not 100%. However, it is corrugated, a corrugated roof and stuff in a similar fashion to the shed. And then it's just sort of a steel or concrete building or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, I'll have to have a think about that. I'll ask some opinions and see what other people think. But I quite like the size of it. I think it just fills in that little space nicely. So I'll have to have a good sort of and about that. But by the time you watch this video, I would have probably made a decision regardless. So we'll see. Other stuff I want to get done in this video, I think I'm going to fit the 3rd and 4th rail actually. So I'm going to electrify this little siding and then this long siding at the back. So that's currently the plan. I'm going to take the layout in the house now because I can then work on it while I'm in the house with my missus, so she doesn't get annoyed that I'm always down in the man cave. So let's go ahead and get this out. We'll get it in the house. I'll start fitting the 3rd and 4th rail, and then also while it's in there, I can take my soldering iron in, I can turn it up on its side, and I can start to wire in all the droppers. So there are 4 bolts holding it in. There's 2 under here, just butterfly nuts. If you've never seen what a butterfly's nuts look like, nor have I, so I'm just taking your word for it. That's what it looks like. I mean, I suppose it also looks like someone with big ears, doesn't it? Like my little brother, I guess. So take that one out. There's one behind it. This is why I can't fit dowels to this board as well. If I fit dowels, they have to be the innie type, because if they stick out, I won't be able to get it in. We've got 2 over here. That one's got no nut on it. Well, that's loaded good, isn't it? That'd be why it was all moving around then. I obviously forgot that one. There it goes. Lovely. Right, so that's that out. Happy days. So let's get it in the house and start this about in there. That's the barrow crossing in then, looking pretty good. Obviously it needs painting, but I'm pretty happy with the position. I did lose a bit of ballast there, as you can see. You might have noticed on the video that I actually glued it straight down. Well, I changed my mind in the end, and I scored around it and then took the ballast up, and then I've glued it flat to the baseboard on the 2 outer edges. So we just made this little piece, which is sort of shaped at an angle to join the 2 in the middle. And I did sand it down a bit so it sits ever so slightly lower than the rail. It's going to be a bit of a nightmare to keep that little section of rail clean, but it's not the end of the world. Moving on then, obviously I will at some point touch in the ballast. I need to do it around the bases of the lights anyway, so that's no problem. And then it'll need a bit of dirt on it. But I want to start getting some conductor rail in. So this is what I use. It's Pico Code 60 rail. Here is the packet it comes in, and here is the pots or chairs, whatever you want to call them, that I use. They are little conductor rail chairs, also from Pico. And here's a section of that rail with chairs on. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 chairs on this piece of rail. And now I'm going to put the chairs every 5 sleepers. So every 5th one will have a chair on it. I can't remember if it's 4 or 5 you do, but if you do 5, you save a chair anyway every now and again. So it's a bit less faff, because these are a nightmare to thread on anyway. But I like to thread them all onto the rail before installing the rail, whereas some people like to put the pots in the sleepers and then thread the rail all the way through, which I think is an absolute faff. So what I'll have to do now is drill the holes for these to sink into, and I'm actually going to use a slightly bigger drill bit. This is something I learned from doing brake spear. The drill bit I'm using is actually the same size. I can't really see. If I zoom in, maybe that's not really going to work, but it's the same size as that donut sort of bit of chair if you look there. So basically the whole thing is going to be countersunk into the sleeper. I know it's not the proper way of doing it, and it's not the best looks wise, but it means that the rails will be below the tops of the running rails, and it means you can clean your track easier. And I'd go for reliable running any day after having done this previously a few times. So I'm going to go along and drill all these. So I'll fit the centre rail first and then the outer rail. They shouldn't also be on the same rail, so you should have the pot on the centre rail and then the pot on the outside rail offset by 1 sleeper. Of course, at the end, you might have to put on the same one. That is realistic, it does happen. But generally, they're on alternate sleepers from each other. So yeah, lots of drilling holes, and then we will fit that. So I'm pretty happy with the third and fourth rail on this little board now. So I'm going to leave that there. All I've got to do is come in and solder some wires onto the third and fourth rail to act as the sort of power wires for it, and obviously terminate them somewhere and link them all together. So that'll just be an extra bit of detail really. You don't have to do it, but it just looks a bit nicer. So now for the end of the video, I'm going to move on to this. So I'm going to get rid of this bird's nest of wiring and hopefully neaten it all up. So a lot of cutting, soldering bits and bobs to do, and then I'm going to use a DR4088 from DigiKeys, which is a current sensing detection device for block detection. I know DigiKeys don't exist anymore, but I have a couple of these spare, so I might as well put one in just in case in the future I do have block detection all set up on this with, say, iTrain or something like that. Even though I've used metal fish plates everywhere, the fish plates for the ball head track are easy enough to bend out of the way and take off, and then it would just be a case of using some sort of plastic fish plate or something like that just to keep the rails together and just keep them insulated from each other. So yeah, I'm basically just putting it on at the minute. It's not going to do anything, but it's just there in case I ever need it, and it means that all the dropper wires will be long enough and they'll all be in the right place if I ever do go down that road. So that's the plan, and for now I will probably put the lights just on the bus wires, just to make life simple at the minute and just test they all work. Of course I will have to use a resistor on them all to dim them down so they don't go pop. And that should be us pretty good. So I'm going to do this because it's a bit boring and time consuming. It's not worth me doing a time lapse because I'm going to be sat here hours and hours. So I'll just see you when it's done. So people make soldering look so difficult, and it really is not that bad. So this is the solder that I use. It is from China, and I get it off eBay. It's really good stuff. 0.5 diameter, 60/40. It's got flux in it. So I don't need a silly little bottle of blue flux. It's as simple as put a bit of solder on the iron. And then just add a bit in and it'll all flow. There you go, that's it. What I'll do is hold that there because that's where I want the wire to be. And that's that join done. So no buggering about. Just do the same again. Easy as that. The cat's going mad in the background, ignore the jingling. There you go, there's another one soldered. Easy as that. Sorted. It's not that difficult, is it? So DCC train automation, if you're watching, now is your chance to look away because I don't want you to embarrass me. But here's my wiring anyway, we're all done. So we've got all the red dropper wires going into the DR4088CS current sensing module for block detection. Of course, as I think I touched on earlier, I do still have metal fish plates in the points because they're unifrogs, so you can use those. But if I ever want to go down the block detection and automation route, it's already in there and wired ready. All I would need to do is take those metal fish plates out, which is quite easy. I can just bend them out of the way and pop them off. Now that the track is all glued down and ballasted, it shouldn't be a problem. It shouldn't all move about. And even if it does, I could always get some plastic ones in there and sort it out that way. But yeah, it's all there ready to go just in case. And then the black dropper wires all just go onto the negative bus. So you can see I've used that solid core cable that I was talking about for the bus lines. I know not everyone agrees with it, but it works for me, so I'm happy. It's what runs Harefield and I don't really have many problems. So it does the job and it stays nice and rigid out of the way. All I use is these little self-adhesive cable tie posts from B&Q. I do put a dab of super glue on the back of them in the center though, because the self-adhesive isn't the best. And then as you can see, just the cable tie keeps everything out of the way, same as with the wiring. I've tried doing it semi sort of neat, but it's not obviously the best in the world. Only other thing that's on the bus then is the lamps. So they're all just wired in temporarily, just with a resistor on each one. So we've got two paired up on this one. We've got two paired up here. And then we've got a single one here, single one up there, and a single one there and there, if I remember. I think that makes 7, doesn't it? So that's just so that they will light for now under track power. Of course, one day in the future I will fit an accessory bus, and then I will join them to those. That will use an accessory decoder such as a 4018, or well, saying that it'd have to be the Yamork equivalent, I suppose, because DigiKeys no longer exist. But Yamork make one that basically does the same sort of thing. So that will be the option for in the future, because then it means that if you use one of those modules, then it has a DCC input, but it has a 12-volt input separately. So basically you use that as an accessory bus, if anything, and then so you've got a DCC input, but it doesn't take the power from that, it just takes sort of the signal. And then yeah, it means that when you're running lights and stuff, you don't take any power away from the track. But yeah, anyway, for now, just for getting it up and running, this will do us nicely. I did run out of cable tie posts, as you can see, so the end ones I'll have to just grab a bit of tape or something, just tape them out of the way. You'll notice there is this little bit where the bus goes up here, and that's obviously because I need to fit a point motor there, and the bus wire would be in the way. So the point motor will go in the centre. I might have to splay them out slightly more, but we've got plenty of slack for that. We've got another point motor to go there, another one up the top there. I was going to use cobalts, but I've had a few problems with mine lately, so I'm not sure. Although I do have 3 spare ones for when I get the broken ones back, so they could go under here. But if I use tortoises instead, which I already have a load of, then that might be a better option for me, because I can run them off an accessory decoder instead, and as I said earlier, run them off an accessory bus rather than track power, doing it that way. But yeah, now we are looking all right, so I'll chuck it back in the cabin probably, or bring a spare DigiKeys DR5000 up here, and then we'll see if it will light. So we're back in. I've got the lights off just so we can double check if it all works. We have got a couple of little dropper wires just going from this board over to the lift out section just to power it. So let's give it some juice and see if it all fires up. Oh, look at that. Isn't that good? And it looks like all of the lights are working first time. So what an absolute touch. I obviously wired them up correctly, so that's good. And the soldering obviously paid off. Yeah, I'm super pleased. That looks ace. So you can probably see from this angle, the spread of light is actually quite even, and it's come out really nice. So again, I'm really pleased with those lights. So Kite's lights, you've done a great job on these. I'm super happy with them. Of course, it does show up the glaringly obvious that we've got to get this shed sorted and lit up, because we've got that massive dark spot in the middle around the shed and the lifting area. So we might put some lights on the crane as well. But for this general area, I think that's really good, and it's come on proper nice. Obviously, with time, I'll just switch the lights on. Now, time-wise, this video's getting towards the 40-minute mark, 35-40 minutes, which is my sort of norm for some reason. So I probably won't do any more other than this. I'll probably just upload this as is. But that gives us more to do next time, I suppose. I did mention I wanted to do the stop boards and some signage and potentially paint those bridge pieces. But it's stuff we can do in the future. So it is what it is. The next video on this little section of my railway then will probably be to do a Model U, because they are sending me a load of goodies, and that will give me a kick up the backside to start sorting the shed out, because most of them are for the shed interior. So that's going to be really good fun, and it's going to involve a lot of painting, which normally I hate, but it's going to be worth it in the long run. So yeah, as I say, the shed needs sorting out. I want to put the corrugated iron on the front and back of it to just sort of give it that dated look a little bit. And I also need to block off this side. So that'll give me something to do. But it's stuff that we can easily achieve. And obviously it's all more content for you guys to watch. But as for me, that'll be it for this video. So hopefully you've enjoyed it. And the F-Class is now making a racket. Let me know your comments below if you think it's looking good. Obviously, I think it's coming on well, but that's my biased opinion. And any constructive comments, I will read them all and see what I think. But yeah, as for me, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Hopefully next week, if not the week after. Take care. See you later. Bye.